You know, folks, MAGA has never been able to look in the mirror. They don't reflect on anything. They just double down on whatever it is that they're talking about that day and keep moving. And that's how it's been ever since Donald Trump came along. We would show them the things that Donald Trump was saying on the campaign trail back when he ran the first time. We would show them what he was saying. It didn't matter. They would always say to us, well, that ain't what he meant. Well, if he did mean it, he had every right to say it. Or you didn't hear him correctly. Or you didn't see it. Or you didn't listen to the whole clip. They always found a way. We made it through his presidency. He lost the 2020 election. It didn't matter to them. They never stopped. They never reflected on anything. They just doubled down on their belief that that election was stolen. And to this day, they will not come down off of that belief. So now here we are. And Donald Trump is telling them that the radical left is who's carrying out all this violence. But statistics does not back that claim up. He continues to say it, but the stats ain't there. And they're especially not there now at the DOJ because the DOJ removed a study that found that right-wing extremism is way more out there than left-wing. So I'm going to be reading this article here from The Hill, I believe it is. And I want to thank y'all so much for supporting what it is I do here on the channel. If you haven't already, be sure and hit that subscribe button and help us get to 1 million before the end of the year. I do believe we can get there. We're growing at a rapid pace, and I just want y'all to know that I truly do appreciate each and every one of you. So I'm going to bring this one up here, and we'll read it together. So the DOJ quietly removes a study showing right-wing attacks outpace those by the left. The Justice Department quietly removed from its website a study showing far-right extremists were responsible for the bulk of ideological motivated deaths, a move that comes as the GOP seeks to back claims from Donald Trump that the radical left poses the greater danger than the right wing. The 2024 study, which several criminal justice researchers reviewed, National Institute of Justice data, found far more instances of deaths credited to right-wing groups. The study was still available on the Department of Justice website last week, but a researcher on extremism posted on social media that it had been removed in the days after the killing of right-wing activist Charlie Kirk. The number of far-right attacks continues to outpace all other types of terrorism and domestic violent extremism, the study says. Since 1990, far-right extremists have committed far more ideological motivated homicides than far-left or radical Islamic extremists, including 227 events that took more than 520 lives, the study states. In this same period, far-left extremists committed 42 ideological motivated attacks that took 78 lives. And folks, I want to say one thing. It's not about tit for tat here to me. It's not about, oh, you did this, oh, we did that. To me, it's not about going back and forth. It's about if we're really going to have a conversation about this, then we have to look at the statistics, look at the numbers, and understand where it's coming from. And we have to be able to look in the mirror and reflect. And you can't do that when you have a leader that tells everybody, oh, yeah, that's BS. There's no such thing as a radical left or as a radical right. When he said that, I was like, what? You're going to tell me there's no radicals on your side? The problem's only over here? So I just think in order for us to have this conversation, we're going to all have to come to grips with things. And so going on here with the article, the removal of the study was first reported Tuesday by 404 Media, which credited Daniel Malmer, a PhD student at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, who is studying extremism, with first noticing the removal of the study on September 13th. And Charlie died on the 10th, so that's how quick they took this down. In a post on social media, Malmer said the study had been visible the day before. The Justice Department did not respond to a request for comment on the removal of the study, but the page now says that the department is reviewing its websites in accordance with recent executive orders. It's not clear which executive orders would require such an action. The Hill has since obtained original study, which discussing a number of factors motivating extremists, including further radicalization by connecting with others online. Web forums included discussions about a variety of beliefs such as gun rights, conspiracy theories, hate-based sentiments, and anti-government beliefs. However, the intensity of ideological expression was generally weak. The nature of the online environments that far-right groups use likely facilitates the diffusion of ideological agendas, it states. Users grow more ideological and radical as others as other users reinforced their ideas and connected their ideas to those of other forums. Since Kirk's death, Trump has repeatedly blamed the left when asked about extremism within fringes on both parties. And he says, if you look at the problem is on the left. It's not on the right. Some people like to say the right. The problem we have is on the left, he told a reporter on Sunday. When you look at the agitator, you look at the scum, talk about toning it down, that speaks badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place. That's the left. That's not the right. Well, I hate to remind him of this, but it was the right on January 6th that took Trump flags, Don't Tread on Me flags, and the Confederate flags. Actually, they had more of those flags than they did the American flag, and they're the ones that went to the Capitol that day and beat up the police. So I do believe that there's absolutely radicals over there. We've seen them, and the numbers don't lie, but they get took down if it don't fit the narrative. The claim is countered by numerous studies, including the one removed from the Justice Department website. The FBI in recent years has warned that the risk of domestic violent extremism, including those motivated by beliefs in fraud related to the 2020 election, racial and ethnic prejudice, and even COVID-19. Other recent studies have backed the conclusion that murders by the far-right extremists are more frequent than those perpetrated by the left. A study by the Cato Institute, a libertarian group, found that since 2020, right-wing extremists were responsible for more than half of all politically motivated deaths. 44, while left-wing extremists were responsible for 22 deaths, a total of, or 22%, which is a total of 18 deaths. So there it is, folks. And then you have Trump saying that the problem is only on the left and that there's no radical right. There is a radical right. There clearly is. And they're clearly loud, and they're clearly out there putting their ideas out into the world. And I want to point this out. When they was able to go to the Capitol and desecrate our Capitol and beat up police officers, they were able to get away with that and receive a pardon. The reason why that I disagreed so hard with those people getting those pardons is because it sends a signal to everybody else who says, if we do violence on behalf of Trump, we'll get a pass for it. That's what people believe because that's what they've seen happen. So you've got people online saying we're at war. You've got people online saying, Trump, just give us the words. We'll go to war for you. And he's never dialed it back. January 6th, just after he sat there for hours watching it, he finally come out and told them to go home. And one time said they didn't represent the movement, but then he realized he needed them. And he kept them around. And he made them stronger than ever. And now they feel empowered to do any damn thing they want to do. And now they feel empowered to completely trample all over anyone in their rights while shouting, don't tread on me at the same time. But if you're going to fix the problem, both sides have to come to an understanding that we have a problem with young men being radicalized. Now, how's that happening and what's causing it? But we have to look at statistics. And you have to start with where the statistics are the highest. I'm not an expert. I'm not a genius, but it just makes sense to me that if you're looking at the numbers and you go, oh, okay, well, you way outnumber this. Let's start over here. Not that it doesn't mean we're not going to talk about what's over here. It just means we're going to start there because more of it's happening. But they always deny it. The things they do right on camera, they deny it later. The things Trump says right out loud, they deny it later and say we didn't hear it. So how are we ever going to come to grips with a group of people who live in an alternate reality and will not listen to a voice of reason and accuses us of turning up the temperature? And how do you debate that? How do you have the conversation with a group of people who debates in that style? That's not really debating to me. Debating is when both sides says we share a common goal that we want to work through this and work this out. I don't see them wanting to work it out. I don't see them saying they want to work it out. I just see them throwing more and more heat onto it so unnecessarily. So I want to have that conversation. I want to have those debates. I want to talk about these things and work these things out. But we have to start somewhere, and one side can't be sitting over going, it's not me. But how do you have an intervention with people like that? How do you set them down and tell them there's a problem when they've been trained to not believe anything you say? Everything we say to them is fake news. So how the hell do we combat it? I guess we just continue to stand on the side of the truth, continue to stand on the side of reason. We'll always be the ones condemning the violence. We'll always be the ones saying we don't want a war. We'll always be the ones trying to turn down the temperature. But turning down the temperature also means you recognize the problem and you recognize the red flags. And when you point to the problem and you point to the red flag, that's not you turning up the temperature. That's not what that is. That's you pointing out the obvious. And we need more people these days that are willing to stand up and point out the obvious and not be afraid of being shouted down for it. I really appreciate your all support here on the channel. We'll continue to push forward. I know we're living in crazy times. I can't count the times that I've got a text or a message or a comment or a friend that's just looked at me and said, what the hell is going on? I have heard that quote a lot here lately. And to tell you the truth, there is a whole hell of a lot going on. There is so much going on that I realize I can't cover it all. And I look at it this way. If I miss a story, if I miss something, I know there's so many great ones out there that will grab it and take it and run with it. And so let's just all work together. But to those on the right, the trolls that hung around to the end of this, I don't want to be your enemy. I'm sick and tired of us looking at each other as though we're enemies. I want us to come together. But you're going to have to look in the mirror. And you're going to have to own up to a whole lot of shit. It's not the fantasy world that you're in. I know it's uncomfortable to step outside that echo chamber and to step outside that bubble and look around. But in the words of Reba McEntire, there's life out there, okay? It's like there's life beyond that bubble you're in, and we just need to wake up to the reality of the situation. Because if we don't, we're just going to stay further divided, and I don't want to see that.